Hey everybody, this is Space Marine Steve from Play on Tabletop and Hyperspace Hobbies, and I am so excited to talk to you today about Infiltrators, what they're like, and why I never leave home without them. Welcome to Master the Chapter. Alright, so it used to be that scout companies were entirely made up of scouts. Okay, so all the scout different units that are on bikes, speeders, etc., whatever. However, when G-Man returned, so Robote Guilliman came back and he brought back with him the Primaris Marines, it shook things up and it made it a rule that scout companies didn't just have to have scouts in them, they could have Primaris Space Marines in them. And so they became something called the Vanguard. And the Vanguard's entire purpose is very simply to move ahead of the regular Space Marine force and perform covert, very stealth-oriented missions, things like disrupting supply lines, assassination missions, communication and targeting disruption, etc., etc. Now, all of the Vanguard units do this in a bunch of different ways, and they're all equipped as such, right? Eliminators have sniper rifles, they're assassins, right? So Infiltrators, they have something called an Omni Scramblers, that fun little backpack they have with the little antennas. And so those backpacks and the tools that they've been trained to use on the battlefield are all about communication breakdowns. They are supposed to break down, disrupt, and entirely scramble your opponent's ability to coordinate. Make sure that troops and supplies get to where they actually need to be. And they become so good at it that it actually turns the entire tide of a battle and even the war on a planet. Their presence on the battlefield is effectively one gigantic headache for the person on the other side. Now, in-game, they are nothing particularly remarkable. They're just a Space Marine. They've got toughness 4, 2 wounds, a 3-up save. However, it's some of their key rules that make them both narratively relevant and competitively relevant, and what makes them a must-have in basically all Space Marine lists. So let's go over some of those key rules, okay, and why those rules are so important both narratively and competitively. First, they forward deploy, which means that they can be placed outside of your deployment zone. They can go and get objectives, they can screen, and they can disrupt your opponent's game plan before the first turn ever takes place. This can be particularly surprising, especially if your opponent isn't expecting a very intense or aggressive playstyle coming from your army. Next, they're Omni Scramblers. So these are those little antennas on their backpacks, and this creates a 12-inch aura where your opponent is not allowed to deploy any reserves. And this sort of supersedes all kinds of different rules like the Gene Stealers and Demons and all those other things that allow them to deep strike and infiltrate closer and closer. None of that works. It pushes them way out 12 inches, and it can be absolutely game breaking when used at the right time in the right spot. It controls so much of the battlefield that it actually does feel like you are disrupting communications. It actually does feel like you are breaking down a game plan before it even really takes hold. And so this is one of the more flavorful rules, and I'm so happy that they have it. Finally, their keywords allowed for some fantastic stratagem support, like guerrilla tactics. It's a quick redeploy right around the edge of the table. This can be perfect if you need an objective that is way over there on the other side of the table. You can quickly pop the stratagem, redeploy, and your opponent is none the wiser. In my opinion, Games Workshop did a fantastic job of writing rules that are both narrative and really impactful and useful in the game. And I'm just going to end it off very quick. Space Marine Steve, hot take and top tip. Because they have forward deploy, I've seen so many Space Marine players always try to put them on the front line as fast as possible. Yeah, I'm going to go all the way up there. We're going to zone out right away. It's going to be fantastic. However, That doesn't really work all of the time, and actually it might not be what you need most in the game. So take a good look at your opponent's list, try and formulate what you think their game plan would actually be, and maybe keep them defensive. Keeping them on the back line with that gigantic 12-inch aura means that they actually can zone out like almost your entire deployment zone, a squad of 5 of them. And so don't be afraid to play defensive or aggressive. This kind of unit gives you all kinds of flexibility, so use that flexibility. Don't be afraid to play defensive or aggressive. I have seen a unit of infiltrators sitting on the back of a board, hitting an objective with an action, or even just standing there, putting their elbows out and making sure that nothing is deep striking into your backline and you can focus all of your energy on what is in front of you. Hope you like my quick little take on infiltrators. So be sure to like, subscribe, put your comments down in the section below. Maybe tell me a story about when you used or saw infiltrators used really, really well. And I'm sure everyone would be keen to hear those stories. No, I'm totally keen to hear those kind of stories. So please talk with me. I absolutely love talking about Space Marines. And until I see you next time, this is Space Marine Steve from Play on Tabletop and Hyperspace Hobbies, wishing you a good night, hoping that we all one day master the chapter.